Yeah. Hi everyone. So in this today's sessions, we are going to see the third-party infrastructure as code tools, whatever available for Azure. Okay. So the last, maybe the previous sessions, right? So we have used the ARM template. So that is the that is the native tool for Azure resource creation. But apart from that, maybe the some of the open source tool is there. With that, how we can automate the resource. So that is what we are going to see. So before that, yeah, the last sessions, right? So we have seen the future flag, and maybe we didn't complete that one also, and the blue green demo, the deployment demo. So maybe Amos, so are you able to complete the blue green one, or maybe can we see this one also?
Yeah, blue green. That's what like the parts unlimited I did, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm able to build it. I didn't check the last part.
Okay.
There are some few more steps, I think. So probably tomorrow I need to work on that.
Okay, Amos. Maybe the blue green. Maybe you guys can try it. Maybe the future flag, right? The yesterday we have updated the codes in wrong branch, so that's why we are not able to see anything. So we will quickly see that one. So we'll see. Okay.
Yeah.
So I'm first going into this particular project and repos.
You are on the boards, right? Do you need
Yeah,
to be on the repos?
yeah. I think the yesterday, right? We have closed one work item. Maybe we can just reopen it again. Like I'm just saying it like new. Maybe we can say like active. Maybe because right. So again we have to do the commits, right. So we can just do with the same commit. But I don't know. Maybe when we are moving it to closed. But after that, if you are using the same commit using this task ID, right. So that's not a good practice, right. So that's why I'm just maybe moved again to the active state, so that maybe we will whatever the code change we are going to make in the launch directory branch, right. So we will use the same the task ID. Okay,
Yeah.
so I think the yesterday also we have the link the future flag with the particular work item. So after that I didn't change any configurations like so this is the account, and under that the portal member. Okay, so now I'm going to wherever I need to change the code. So first one is the home controller. So I'm going to repository. So here, right, it is launch directory repository. Okay, so here source, website, and then controllers, and under the home controller, we have to update. Okay, but yeah, maybe here we have to change. Maybe I think the client key, right? So that one also we need to copy. So better we can copy from the master branch. So master branch, and yeah, we have updated the. Okay, so here the SDK key is updated, and apart from that, I think the member portal, the keywords where we will be updating it. So for example, I'm just making it commit. So here we can see, right, we can see what are all the changes we are doing. So for example, So we are updated the code, right? So what basically it is doing, like it is adding the launch directory client, and after that so we are adding the SDK key. So with that they are creating the client, and after that here they are so fetching the credentials, like they are getting the portal member particular flag, and based on the value they are setting the value in view data. Okay, so the view data, view bag, right? So those and all from your controller to how you can pass the data to the view, like the HTML pages. Okay, so if you are getting the value as true, then they are passing the view data, the toggle value as true in the HTML page. So based on the condition, they are enabling the conditions on that. Maybe they are disabling the particular feature, enabling. So that logic they are making it. So with the maybe Amos, so you know, right, the view bag, view data, maybe in the .NET, maybe other the same term you are using or not?
Yeah, MVC.
Okay, yeah, maybe from a controller to the HTML, we are just passing the data. And apart from that, right, so there is no other change. Okay, so the next one is we have to update the uh, we have to update the account controller. So I'm just copying all and launch darkly, and I'm just editing it. Okay, so and then so make sure we are in the launch directory branch, and then I'm selecting the okay. When I'm clicking on the changes here, also the launch directly the client they are adding it, and then here also the SDK, and after that they are just commenting this method, and instead they are adding this one. So yeah, so here the portal member. So here, so they have created the launch directly client, right? And after that, they are getting the flag status of the portal member status. And based on that value, they are again setting the view data in the toggle value, the particular field. Okay, so with that, they may be controlling it. Okay. So for example, Amos, and one more thing, right? So from the future flag management tool, there we have seen the segments and all, right, the user segment. So for example, if you have a maybe the dev, maybe whoever the beta users, alpha users, right? So before going to production, if you want them to, if you want allow them to test, so in those scenario, right, what they will do is like so for example the user, right? So for the particular user, whether the portal this one is enabled or not, so those conditions they will check it. Okay, anyway, when you are authenticated in the web application, so from the HTTP context or the authorization context, you will be able to get the email ID of the user, right? And then they are checking maybe whether the user is a beta user or not. And after that maybe they may be checking it, maybe for if he is the beta user, then he will be checking the portal status, and then maybe they will enable it in the maybe portal, so that it will be available only to the beta users. But this is just they are saying it for example, but this is how the user segmentation, right? Maybe you can group it like the QA or beta users. So in those scenario, you can just release it to the particular user group alone. It's not to the wide group, only to the beta users group only you can be release the feature, so that they can test it, and if everything is good, then they can proceed to the maybe other wide group as well. So you are okay, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and then one more thing also, maybe the when we are releasing the maybe the two features, right? So for example, this feature is there in so already existing feature is there, and then they are releasing the new feature. And maybe when we are seeing another one more flow, right, A/B testing. Okay, so for example, you will be having the same page in a different style or some kind of thing. Okay, but only the functionality would be same, but the maybe the styling would be different. But in another one case, right? So maybe when you are having the two maybe the real-time application in the environment. So let's say the blue green also, okay. So the blue means existing application, green means your new application, okay. But the blue green segregation we can do at the application level only, okay. But whatever the database that is pointing, right, that we cannot change it, like the blue database, green database, okay. So if you want to achieve the blue green deployment, so our the SQL designing and maybe if there is any so that also we have to be considered. So otherwise, right, the blue green and all it won't work. For example, maybe the current database, right, it will be work for the live application, that is the blue, okay. So when you are just changing, maybe when you are newly deployed the production application in the green, so at the time it won't be compatible to the SQL changes. So for the green, right, it needs to have some update in the SQL database, okay. So if you are updating the SQL database for the green application, then again our blue will be maybe there, if there is any breaking changes, then the live application it won't work. So you got it right. So maybe when you're having the two applications, two versions in the production environment, let's say the blue or green something, so it should have it will be pointing to the same database, so that maybe if there is any conflict or something, so it won't work. So that we have to design or the code such a way that maybe the both version of code it should support for the same SQL state, maybe the SQL version or the database state something. So you got it right.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Okay. Yeah. So the next thing, right? So here maybe the account controller, home controller. So this one we have updated, and then the next thing is like so this one. So in the layout.html we have to update. Uh,
So
okay.
in that situation, Selvan,
Yeah.
so before we launch the new feature, they need to at least like get the database version. Say, for example, if there is a new column added, right?
Yeah.
So that needs to be added, and then still we need to have the production code which will not break because of the new column. If we use the entity framework or something, right?
Yeah. Yeah,
So
mostly,
in,
yeah,
Mhm.
mostly it shouldn't. Maybe, for example, right, currently you are just developing the new feature, okay? So you are not applying any. So, for example, right, the entity framework also we will be using in the same pipeline only. Maybe whether you are using the maybe the database first approach or the code first approach. So if you are using the code first approach means maybe from the pipeline itself we will be running the deployment, like maybe the along with that maybe the code itself, right, maybe from that application code itself we will be generating the SQL, and the same thing it will be deployed in the maybe the environment also from the pipeline itself. But the database first approach means you will be creating the column directly in the database first, and after that you can just consuming in your feature, okay. So for example, right, you are still not at all completed the future, but still it can be deployed into the production environment, okay. But anyway, right, so that future maybe no one going to use that because you are just disabling the future in the production environment, okay. So when you are just enabling the future for any of the application like beta users or anyone, at the time you have to create the maybe the column, maybe then only it should work, otherwise it won't work. Okay, because in the entity framework also there are two concepts, right? The database first approach and then the code first approach. Okay.
Yeah, that is all like on the initial deployment you will be done, right? What approach you are doing, but on the feature release. So if you are making like only one change on a proc, right? Like if you had like a new input parameter, so that proc I cannot deploy into the SQL server which the blue is pointing to. So in that situation, for the green to be tested, I cannot have like another database, or maybe
Yeah,
I need
yeah,
to clone the database and then make it like a new instance. Green will be pointing to the new instance. We can make all the deployments there, but for the testing wise, right? Like,
yeah,
but when you want to swap the green to a blue and then blue to obsolete, then that time again we have to do the database merge or
No,
no?
no, no, no. So in those scenarios, right? So there is some limitations. So when we are using the RDBMS, right? So that is definitely the limitation. So at that time, from the design, the coding development side, right? What we have to do is like when you are creating the column, right? So you have to maybe create as the default, maybe the constraint column. So even when your old application, right? So still it won't supply any value to the new column. So at the time, right? So if it is the maybe the default or maybe the null constraint column, so it won't be any problem. Okay. And one more thing also, whenever you are inserting the data or something, right? At the time you have to specify the column name and then you have to pass the value. So if you are not specifying the column name, then it would be maybe the null or default value. It can be passed. So at the time, right? So your old application, new application, both will work in the same. Even after maybe deploying your SQL changes or whatever, still your both application it will work. Maybe you have to, maybe at the design consideration, right? Maybe you have to create as the null constraint. So in this case, okay. And then the next one is like maybe whenever you are making the insert entry, so at the time explicitly you have to provide the column name. So otherwise, right, if you're just maybe if you're just providing the values block alone, like maybe from your old the old code, right, it will just pass the 10 values, 10 parameters, okay. But in your the table column, right, it would be 11. So at the time it will be the maybe the query execution, it will be failed, okay. So in those scenario, maybe you have to maybe from the coding perspective, you have to explicitly provide the column name and then the corresponding value. So at the time, so our insertion and deletion, so it won't be affected anything.
Yeah, I get that one, but when on a proc, right? Like if you are changing a functionality within the proc,
Okay.
like how the logical change is happening, so
Okay.
we cannot deploy that one on the blue environment SQL.
Okay, maybe you're saying like the future, maybe the functionality itself they have changed. So in
Right.
that scenario, maybe yeah, correct. Because right, the both the SP it will point to the same thing. But otherwise, right, we cannot implement the same future flag in the stored procedure, like getting the future flag, and then maybe if the flag is enabled, go to this. Yeah, that also not the very complex one, right? Yeah, maybe
Mm.
those are all some restrictions also. So at
So
the time,
some of the minor things like some of the UI changes, yes, I think like we can achieve with
yeah,
this one.
web
But when it
application.
comes to like a database interaction, then this blue-green concept will be like
Yeah,
thrown into
yeah,
trash.
yeah, and also maybe also for example, when you are thinking the blue-green deployment, right? So at the time you need to have the corresponding the technologies and skill set also, like maybe the tool set, okay? So you cannot maybe achieve with the same the .NET Core Entity Framework, the SQL database. At the time, if you are achieving the blue-green deployment, you need to go with the microservice architecture. So then each service it will have the independent role, so that even if you are making any changes at the time, there won't be any impact to the other services. Okay. And then you have to go to the NoSQL database also at the time, right? That is the document database, so that whatever the limitation in the RDBMS, so you won't be having that. Okay. So when you are
Mhm.
maybe trying to achieve the blue green deployment, so at the time you need to have the proper maybe the that much of advanced technologies also you have to use. So then only our problem also maybe we can solve it easier, and our job also it will be very easy. But if you're trying to achieve in the same the monolithic application and then the SQL server or the entity framework, right? And then again we are making the solution very complex only. So otherwise, right, the future flag, and then so whatever you're saying, right, that is absolutely correct, okay. But to solve that solution, what we can do is like from the stored procedure, right? So you need to get the what is the corresponding flag, whether it is the enabled or disabled. So if it is the enabled, so you have to run the particular block of maybe SQL statement. If it is disabled, you have to run the another particular block of the SQL statement. That is the very much complexer, right? So
Mhm.
still that is the way, but maybe we don't want to go into that, but the database level and all. Maybe if you are having the mostly into the Cosmos DB, so they will have some other way. Like maybe in those scenario, right, from our coding itself we have to change that. Maybe the design consideration, maybe we have to change that maybe.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, Amos. So the next one, right, so we have to update the view back the layout.html, cshtml. So here we have replaced the existing the code. Okay, so now we can just run the yeah, I think the last time the restore only it's failed, right? I think from the master branch they are using some other .NET Core version, and maybe for the launch darkly project, right? So they are using maybe the latest version, maybe. So that's why. So the last time, right? So the restore the particular task it was failed for us. So almost, so now you understood, right? So we are just creating the flag in the future flag management tool, and then based on the status of maybe the whether based on the value of the flag, they are just controlling the code in their application, like
Yeah.
just if else condition only.
Got it.
Okay, the test is failed. Um, So because now we have added some code for the launch directly, right? So that makes some maybe the coding, maybe the test cases failure. So that maybe we are just testing only, right? We are just testing the deployment only. So that's why I'm disable the unit test case, the running task.
Mhm. So what is the expected result after this one now?
Yeah, after this one, right? Maybe when we are from the launch darkly tool, right?
Is it on the launch darkly or on the Azure?
No, from the Azure DevOps, I think it will automatically enable the flag, I guess. But we'll see. So, for example,
Okay.
so basically, there we are in the task, right? We are just saying like the rollout 100 something. So I guess it will automatically uh, maybe roll out the task. Maybe and after that, right? Maybe we can just enabling or disabling. We can control from the launch directly portal itself.
So this is building and it's going to publish on the DevOps, right? Not the DevOps, on the Azure, right?
Yeah, so from the Azure pipeline only, right? So it will create the drop folder, and inside that it will keep all the application binary and ARM templates. So whatever it is needed, uh, why it is failing? The process failed. The .NET 5 has some compatibility issues with older Nugget version. So if you are I think the build is successful, but when we are doing publish,
Maybe on the build, do we need to add additional the .NET,
yeah,
whatever
the
that
use,
5.7
the,
or something?
yeah, the framework here, right? Microsoft .NET Core app was not found. Okay, but why? I don't know why they need 2.0.0. The following frameworks were found, but 2.0.0 is not found. Installing the specific, yeah, maybe we can install the specific one.
Does it give any version? No.
Yeah, maybe right. So, for example, for the restore, we don't need 2.0.0. For example, in the repos, right? So, we'll see at least what is the maybe the version of .NET Core they are using. So, here parts unlimited CS project. So, here .NET Core app 2.0. Yes, but when they are building, right? So at the time it was working fine, but otherwise during the restore itself, it should maybe provide error, right? So here maybe the 2.0. So maybe almost so here only we need to check the version, right? 2.0. Like any solution file, they are mentioning it. I think mostly nothing in the solution file. Okay, maybe we will just add 2.0. Okay. But when I'm running the first time, right? So at the time it was working fine. So at the time it's not providing any error. So the first time we are trying to build and deploy the application, right? So at the time
Mm-hmm.
it should not throw error. Maybe what I'm thinking like when maybe whenever we are running the build, right? It's not always like it will be queued into the particular machine. Okay. But maybe in that particular machine they might have the 2.0 version. Maybe some other version we are maybe building now, right? So at the time, so in those machine, maybe it won't have the 2.0 version. So that's why we are just seeing these with consistent issues. Like some other time it is working, but some other it is not working, right? So that is all related to the agent machine where it is running, right? Running the job. I think now it is running. Okay.
Yeah, this time it finished, I guess, right?
Yeah. So I think this is one. So it is automatically, right? Once the build is successful, it is
Mm-hmm.
automatically creating the release and then it is start deploying it. So you can just click on this one. Like it is queued. Mm, okay, I think here the work items also there. So the rollout task also successful. Yeah. So here, right, rolled out portal member to 100% of users. So because they have mentioned the 100 percentage also, right? The rollout property as 100, and then whatever the maybe the future is selecting, it is just changing it to 100, I guess. So for example, right? So earlier it was like off state only, okay. But I think from that Azure DevOps, it is changed to on maybe. Yeah, when we are refreshing it. Yeah, so here you can see almost right. So before that it was just a off state, but when we are running the build, maybe the deployment, and after that it is automatically changed to on from the Azure DevOps pipeline. Okay, so for example, now maybe after the, yeah, here the app service also deployed, right? So we will go to, so this is our deployed application, and in the right top, in the top right, so we will be having the member portal. Okay, so when we are clicking on this member portal, it is going into login page. Okay, so now so for example, if I am if I'm disabling this one, right, if I'm disabling the portal member here, maybe I will I think request approval not needed, like I'm just changing as off state. Okay, so currently it was showing like member portal, right? So it won't show now. So this is gone, right? And then even if I'm again change it to on, and then refresh the page, and it will be there like member portal. So this is the demo for this one.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
But anyway, the implementation, right? So it's just like a usage condition only. Maybe if you are making some complex functionality, right? Maybe we will see that one. But here, right? Maybe this is the portal. They are just adding the member portal as the new feature, and whether they want to allow or not to the particular users. So that is the
Okay.
experiment they are trying. Okay. Okay, Amos.
So in case of any new module or anything to be launched, right?
Yeah.
So that's how we can control this one, like who the users.
Yeah.
But how you control the users is like you give by like a percentage of
Yeah, the percentage, that is
users.
the one thing. So for example, right? So here from the coding also we can change the implementation. So for example, in the controller, right? From the account controller. So here they are
Some
providing,
email ID they have given,
yeah.
right?
So they are giving the email ID. Okay. So similar like, for example, here user, and then yeah. So for example, right, here they are just getting the user, maybe you and me, there are two users, right? So for example, you are the beta user, I am the maybe the real time user. Okay, so for example, when you are part of the beta user, okay, maybe you are part of the beta user, right? At the time, maybe you will be added into the beta users group in the portal actually here from the segments, right? So here they can create the user group, like whoever the maybe the beta users and all, and maybe after that, right? So from that maybe from the portal itself, you can assign you can maybe in the experiments or somewhere, you can release the feature to the particular segments only. Okay, so whenever you are releasing the particular whenever you are providing the user to the maybe the bool variation, right? So when you are logging at the time, it would show like true. Okay, but when I'm using this portal, it will come as false, so that I will just get the default functionalities, but you will be getting the new feature, maybe whatever you want to test as the beta user. Okay, so this is what from the user level they are controlling it. Okay, but otherwise, yeah, maybe otherwise, right? So the whoever maybe refreshing the page, whoever the application currently they are using, right? So it will be applicable to all the users, but maybe based on the users, maybe the flag status also it will change.
Okay.
Okay, so okay, so the next one, yeah, maybe the third party IAC tools. Uh, Yeah. So for example, right, the last time, so we have seen the ARM template. So that is the Azure Manager, the tool name. And so that is the native tool from the Azure. So they have the support because they are the creator, right? They are the owner for the particular tool. So that, so whatever, even the last time we have seen, right? So that is the JSON based one. So we will be having the template.json and then the parameter.json, and so all the parameters we will be providing in the parameters, and so they will be having the three mode like completed, incremented, and validation. So those kind of three modes they are allowing it, and similar like, right? So there are many other third party infrastructure as code tools like so that one we are going to see. And so for example, maybe the example like the chef, Puppet, Ansible, and then the Terraform, but mostly the popular one, right, the Ansible and Terraform. So the main reason is like so those tools and all, it's a agentless tool. So for example, if you want to make some deployment, right, so I don't want any agent to be installed in your machine. So for example, if I want to deploy something in your machine, so in case of the Chef and Puppet means there is some agent tool, the client tool needs to be installed there. So with the tool, I will be interacting, and then whatever the configuration changes I want to make, I can do that. Okay. But from the Ansible and the Terraform and all, we don't need any the agentless. So that is the one main advantage. Like everyone is going towards the particular tool. Okay. And this in this one, right, so the Terraform, the overview we are going to see, and then how we can set up the local environment, and then the creating resources in Azure, maybe we'll see. So till the local setup, right, so we will complete today, and the demo part we will see tomorrow. Okay, because maybe we will just have a 30 minutes only, right? So we cannot complete that one. So maybe till the overview and then local setup we will do, and maybe the tomorrow we'll see the demo part. Okay. So
So what is the IAC is?
the IAC means infrastructure as code. Okay, so for example, right, so maybe like a pipeline as code. So what does that mean? Pipeline
So
as code.
pipeline. That is a YAML thing.
Yeah, correct. So because so there are two versions, right? So one is you can create the pipeline using the Visual Designer, and another way
Mhm.
is like YAML pipeline. Okay, so what is the benefits of having YAML pipeline?
Mm,
Yeah.
what was the thing?
Yeah, so mostly, right? So for example, the reusable, like if you're having we can just do drag and drop, right? So we cannot reuse much. And apart from that, we don't have the any auditing kind of functions. It's not there. So for example, you can delete it, but otherwise, right? Maybe we cannot have the rollback functionality and all, right? So if someone accidentally deleted that one, so you have to manually go and then you have to create from the scratch. But from the YAML, right, you are having everything in the Git control, source code control. So you have the visibility that who has changed, and with compared to the older pipeline version, so what we have upgraded. So all those things, right, because we are keeping in the source code, so we will be having all the functionalities, right? So like who has changed, and what is the difference between the two pipeline version, and if you want to roll back, you can just revert the commit, so that it will be automatically revert the pipeline changes also you have made, right? So basically, yeah, so similar like application, how you are doing the application release, so similar way the pipeline also they are doing, so that is why the pipeline has code. Okay. And the infrastructure also, right? So earlier how they will do is they will manually go to the portal, and there they will be managing, they will be creating the resources manually. Okay. But if you want to update something, and if you want to configure something, or installing the update everything's right, so that you have to manually log into the server, and then you have to do all the operations. Okay. But from the infrastructure as code means all those operations you will be scripted in the code, and that will be pushed to the source code repository. So similar way how you are following the application code, right? So the similar way you will be doing the release and everything, you will be pushing the infra code, and then you will be staged in the artifact. Maybe the artifact means just a JSON code, that's it. Okay. And after that you will be deploying it to the further environments. Okay. So in the
So
last
even on the
yeah,
launch darkly, we saw that
yeah,
environment folder.
yeah, correct.
That's the one, right?
Yeah, correct. Yeah. So,
Okay.
for example, right, the launch darkly also, we are not there. They are deploying the application in the Azure App Service, right? But we didn't create any app service account or inside that web app or any configuration. Okay. But all those things and all they have scripted in the maybe ARM templates. And before we are deploying it, they are just running the ARM template, the deployment particular task, so that it is available for the deployment. Okay. So that is for the ARM
Mhm.
template. The concept is same, like ARM template, the Terraform, the both of them same, because both of them are infrastructure as code tool only, right? So the only the thing is like who is managing, and what is the structure, and then the language they are using it. Okay. So for example, when you're taking the maybe the comparison, right? Like ARM templates, you can use it only for the Azure. It won't be support for the AWS or GCP or any other cloud also. Okay, because that is the native tool for the Azure, so that they will be giving extensive support only to the their native service only. Okay. But the Terraform is like they are the open source tool, so that they are just giving the support for the all the public cloud platform like AWS, Azure, GCP. Okay. And then like the agentless, even the Terraform and then the ARM template also the agentless. Okay. But when compared to the Chef and Puppet, right, so they are all the agent tool, but the this one is agentless tool. So for example, right, if I want to deploy something, maybe we are not configuring any agent in their Azure and all, right? So we just need maybe Azure CLI something, and then our configuration code. So with that we can just run the script, and then it will be provision the infrastructure in the Azure cloud. Okay. So that we don't need any agent involved. Maybe the agent involved in that means like from that Azure cloud. Okay. And then the declarative language. So for example, we will be declaring how the environment has to build, and similar way the Terraform will create the infrastructure for us. Okay. And here, right, so from that Azure, right, ARM templates, we will be having the JSON template. So all the template file and then parameter file, right? So that will be the JSON file. But here the .tf extension, so we will be creating the file with the .tf extension. So here they are using the format like a HashiCorp style. Okay. So they are introducing the new style. So it is mostly likely into the groovy something. So maybe I'm not sure whether you are aware, like from the Java and all, right? Maybe if you are using the Gradle build pipeline or something, at the time you will be using the groovy syntax. So that also it will be similar it will be similar like JSON YAML only, but that is a different notation they will be follow. Okay. But exactly the same thing. So here we will be using the HashiCorp, the coding style, the format we will be using. Okay. And here the thing we want to learn is like provider and then resource block. Okay. So for example, right, so the currently, right, so we are seeing like the Terraform will support for major cloud providers like AWS, Azure, GCP, and even they are saying like more than 100 providers they are providing it. Okay, so mostly the provider means the reusable module or something. So what it will do is like, for example, right? Let's take an example. Maybe with Terraform, how we can create the infrastructure in the Azure. Okay, so we know that Azure is exposing the endpoint, like API endpoint. Okay, so with that API endpoint, if you are providing all the authentication token properly, and then if you are calling the particular API, so it will be creating the instances and then the resources automatically. Okay, so those the API call logic, right? So they will be added in the provider block. Okay, so for example, if it is the Azure provider, maybe Azure Resource Manager provider, so that inside that provider, they will be having the interaction to how they are calling the Azure related APIs. Okay, so they will be getting the maybe the authentication credential from us, and then maybe based on the declarative syntax we have provided in the template, the TF file, and they will be calling the particular file, and then they will be maybe create the infrastructure there. Okay, and then the resource block, right? So we will be mentioning like what are all the resources we have to create. Okay, so for example, when you take an virtual machine as the you have to create, so there are many resources you want to create, like maybe the first resource group you have to create, and then the storage, and the virtual network, subnet, and NSG, public IP, and okay. So there are multiple resources you have to create. Okay, so inside the resource block, for each and every resources, you have to create a block for that one. Okay, and then the provider block means you will be mentioning like whether you are using the Azure resource, Azure provider or the AWS provider. Okay, so if you want, if you are working with Azure provider, then you have to mention Azure ARM provider, and this is the version I'm using. Okay, and inside the resource block, you will be mentioning these are all the resources I am going to create. Okay, and the next one is the command. So for example, right, from that ARM templates we have seen there are two methods, something like the incremental and completed and the validation only. Okay, so similar like the Terraform is providing many commands. So in that one, so we have to understand that these are all the basic commands. Okay, so these are the mostly used commands. So the init means, right, so for example, you will be having the .tf function, and inside that you have mentioned the provider and then the resource block. Okay, so what it will do is like when we are running the Terraform init, it will look the .tf file, and it will download all the Azure the resource manager provided in your local machine, like because right, the provider, it has to download from the Terraform, maybe the repository or somewhere. Okay, so when you are doing the init command, it will download the provider. Okay, and then it will make sure everything is set up for the execution. Okay, and when you are running the Terraform plan, right, it is something like dry run. Okay, so when you are running the Terraform plan, so it will just check with your declarative syntax and then your Azure environment, and then it will show, yeah, so these are all the added changes and these are all the changes to be deleted. So those kind of things it will show. This is basically like dry run, like before you are maybe applying the changes, you are just making sure that, so what are all the differences we will be getting. So when you are running the particular script, what are all the maybe the changes it's going to make in the infrastructure. So that is the thing it will provide. Okay, and then the validate, like when you're running the Terraform validate, it will verify all the coding, like the compilation error, or is there any indentation, or maybe mostly it's not, maybe the YAML only we have to follow the indentation, but the validate means like mostly like the format, everything we are following as per the HashiCorp style or not. So maybe if you are missing something, or we are having any extra bracket or any the compiling issues, right, so it will report there. Okay, and then when you are just running the Terraform apply, it will maybe implement the changes into the cloud infrastructure. Okay, so like maybe for example, right, so you are creating the resource group block and then VM all the block, right, when you are just doing the Terraform apply, so it will create the infrastructure in the Azure environment. Okay, and then last command is like destroy. So whatever the maybe the resources you have specified in the TF, and then when you are running the destroy command, it will delete all the resources in the the cloud environment. Okay, the init is means like it will whatever the provider we are mentioning in the file, right? It will download and make sure that everything is ready for the executing the Terraform script. Okay, the plan is means like just a dry run, you will be getting what are all the changes it is going to make, okay, from the cloud to the cloud environment. And validates means like it is just a compiling for all the resource block and the provider block. If there is any issues maybe the extra curly braces, or maybe you are missing some value or those things, right? It will just validate the TF the file. Okay, the apply means it will implement the changes there, and then the destroy means like it will delete all the resources. So this is the some overview of the Terraform. Okay, so Amos, so you have any query on this?
No, Salam.
Okay, yeah. So and maybe in the next session, right, we will see the Ansible. Maybe this one also important, like the Terraform and Ansible. But once these tools are coming into the place, the Chef and Puppet and all outdated. But no one is currently using this one because they are providing like agentless feature. But the Chef and all, it's some management overhead. You need to install the agent and all. So that is why no one is preferring the Chef and Puppet now. But the Ansible and Terraform and all, so so from the infrastructure, right? Maybe you can maybe, right, you don't need to know like ARM templates and Terraform. Anyway, you are going to work in any one of the tool only. Okay, and Ansible also somewhat important, so we will see in the upcoming sessions. Okay, so the next one, right, the local setup. So for example, right, you are just going to make a the .tf extension file only. Okay, so mostly you don't need any extensive IDE like Visual Studio or Eclipse, some kind of thing. You just need a VS Code like code editor. Okay, maybe you can do the same thing with the Notepad++ or anything. We are going to make we just need the code editor alone. So that's why we are just going to install VS Code, and apart from that, we are just going to make we are going to install some usable plugin also, Azure services and then the Terraform, so that if we are missing something, right, it will show some error. So by seeing the IntelliSense, so we can say, yeah, this block we have to update. Maybe similar like Azure, the Visual Studio and all, right? Maybe if you are providing some wrong value, by just seeing the IntelliSense, we can fix that. Okay, so similar way, by using the plugin, we can so it will be easy for the development. So that's why we are just going to install the two plugins. And one more thing is we already seen that the Cloud Shell. Okay, from that Azure environment itself, you will be having the Cloud Shell environment. Okay, so there also you can run the Terraform related script, or and maybe even you can develop the maybe the script there also, and then you can deploy it. Okay, because the Terraform, it will be already installed, it will be installed already there. Okay, so here, right, so for example, I have missed one step. The first thing is you have to, yeah, maybe you don't need the Terraform also, maybe if you are installing the plugins. Okay, and yeah, maybe you can, it's good to install the Terraform and Azure CLI also. Okay, so for example, I will I'm going to here. But Amos, so you are already working with Visual Studio Code or not?
Yeah, on the Visual Studio, yeah,
Yeah. So
not on the code.
okay,
So for the React JS, I started sometime before, like to do some kind of a learning. So that time I started using the Visual Studio Code.
okay, okay.
But
Yeah,
in general, I use the Visual Studio itself.
yeah. I think with compared to Visual Studio, right? The Visual Studio is just a simpler only, just like a code editor, like Notepad++. But by just installing some plugins, right, we can make use of the
Yeah,
IDE environment.
like a lightweight
Yeah,
IDE,
correct.
I would say.
Yeah, yeah. And even, right, currently they are providing the web version also. I think they recently launched.
I haven't used the web version anytime.
Yeah, I think VS Code web version. I think they recently released the feature. I think month or uh, yeah, VS Code.dev. So from the browser itself, yeah, you can develop the application basically.
Mm.
I think here, right? So I don't know when we are creating the folder where it will save. Okay, I think remote repository or pull request. So I think remote repository means we can provide the. Uh, I think it will create in our local only. The open folder means our, yeah. But anyway, right? So here we need the internet connection. So then only it will work. Maybe if you are disconnecting the internet, right, it won't work. So I'm just installing the VS Code and the Terraform also the straightforward only almost. Okay, you can just type Terraform for Windows. Okay, and then you can just choose the maybe your target environment. Like I'm choosing Windows 64-bit. Okay, I'm just installing. Okay, but the Terraform, right? So this is the zip file. So one thing we want to add, like we want to, uh, so we want to add the path in the environment variable. Okay. So for example, so almost, so you know what is the environment variable? So did you set up the path before?
On the VS Code?
No, 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 no. This is just like environment variable, the system environment variable, user environment variable, something.
Not for these ones. For the SSIS packages I have done on the dev machine, and
Okay,
like on the dev and QA. So there we have done the environment variable,
okay, yeah,
but
yeah.
not on the Visual Studio Code.
Okay. No, 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 no. I think the environment variable, right? That is common across the your machine. Okay. But it's not specifically to the maybe the VS Code or the Terraform. It's nothing. Okay. It will be common
Okay.
across the environment. For example, if you want to change some name, for example, some of the values, right? It will be you have to use across your machine. Okay, so that you can store in the environment variable and then you can refer whenever you need. So otherwise, right, you want to
Yeah,
make changes in every the tool or something. Okay,
yeah. Recently I have done on the Git Bash.
okay, okay, yeah.
That is for globally we can apply, or for the
Hmm.
individual users you can do.
Yeah, correct. So and then one more thing also, so far currently, right? So when I'm just downloading the this one, so we are not getting as the installer package. Okay, we
Mm.
just retrieving as the zip file. Okay, so that's why. So for example, if I am running the cmd command, right, like terraform, it will show like nothing. The it's not the recognized as an internal or external command. Okay, but still I have
Mm.
downloaded, but it's not reflecting, right? So for this one, what we have to do is like we have to add the path in the environment variable. Okay, so for example, I'm just copying this path and I'm going to environment variables. Okay, so I'm clicking on the environment variable. So you can apply the environment variable at the user level or across the your system level also. Okay. So for example, the system level means, right. So in my own local machine, maybe if some other user also accessing it, so whether they also wants to access the terraform or whether me only needs to access it. So in this case, right, I'm just going to make the user level only. I'm just going to the path environment variable and clicking on edit and adding a new one. So here I'm adding a new one and then adding the path here. Okay, so I'm clicking on OK and so I'm clicking I'm added the path, the terraform path there. Okay, so for example, right now you are running the terraform command, so now you can tell me what it will respond.
It's going to execute that.
Okay.
command itself, right?
Yeah, that is correct. Yeah, maybe the Terraform, when you're running the Terraform hyphen version something, right? It will do the last time, right? We are getting the Terraform the error, right? So we won't get that.
Mm.
But before that, one more thing also. Okay, so for example, I have opened the command prompt before updating the environment variable. So in those scenario, so still, right, we will get the same output because after opening the command prompt only, I have updated the environment variable. Okay, so for example,
So this just doesn't realize the changes.
yeah. So for example, what I have to do is like I have to restart the command prompt. So which means like I will just reopen the CMD now. Okay, and now if I am running the Terraform -v, so it will throw the version. So now you got it
Okay.
right. So after
Mm-hmm.
maybe adding anything in the environment variable, so you have to restart again. Maybe don't need like the system level restart. You can just maybe like Visual Studio you are using, right? You have to just restart the Visual Studio or VS Code or the command prompt. Okay, so when you are starting your application, right, at the time it will load whatever the environment variables currently in the system. Okay, but after
Mm-hmm.
that, right, if you're changing anything there, it won't be update in the command prompt level and all. So whatever the running application. So for that is the reason you have to restart again. Maybe you have to restart the particular application again. Okay, so this is the maybe the Terraform installation. Like we are running the script, right? So Terraform -v, I have installed the 1011 version. Okay, and then the VS Code, right? The VS Code also I have installed. Okay, so here we have to we are going to install the few plugins here. Like here, right? So this is the UI. Like if you want to install any kind of plugins, right? So you have to, yeah, you have to go here. Yeah, so for example, right, this is the marketplace. Like if you want to install any kind of plugin, so you have to search here. So for example here, right, I want to install two plugin. One is for Azure and another one is for Terraform. Okay, so I'm just selecting the Terraform and then I'm installing it. Okay, so because right, so it will provide some the HashiCorp styling something, right? So maybe if you are writing, if when we are coding it, if there is some error, then it will notify us. Okay, so for example, right, the future they are saying like syntax highlighting, basic syntax validation, snippet, Terragrund supported, no language server, something. So mostly, right, the syntax highlighting, basic syntax validation, so those things. Okay, and another, so currently, right, now we have installed it. Okay, the next one is like Azure. Hmm, yeah, I think we will be using Azure account, maybe our Azure services. Okay. Yeah, so we will be installing the Azure account. So for example, right, instead of your logging into the AZ console or something, so in those scenario, you can just log in, sign in and sign out by using the plugin. So for example, right, I'm just installing this one, Azure account. Okay, now it is installed. So for example, if I want to log into the Azure, means what I will do is like I will click on command palette and then here I will just search Azure, and then here I am getting the options, right, like select subscription, sign into cloud, so sign out, those things, right? So for example, I'm just running the Azure sign in command. Okay, so it will open the browser automatically. So here we have to provide the details here, like yeah. So currently, right, you are signed in now. You can close this page. Okay. So this is how when you are installing the Azure account plugin, and so you can just log in by using this way. And then the Terraform, right? So for example, I have already said like the Terraform. Yeah. So Terraform, I don't know why it is not reflecting here. Um, so this is already installed.
You need to close the Visual Studio Code and open it.
Maybe, yeah, that may be the issue. So here view command palette and Azure Terraform we are not getting. I think terminal only we are getting here. Yeah, I think basically, right. So for example, I have shown the basic commands, right? The Terraform command, like init, apply, destroy, right? So we can run this command from here itself. Okay, but currently it's not coming. Maybe I will see why it's not coming, and then we'll discuss. Yeah, I will show you tomorrow. I think
Okay.
mostly we just need the plugin only, but I don't know why it's not coming. Okay. So, okay, Amos, maybe that's for the session today. Maybe the tomorrow, right? So we will show the demo for the Terraform, like the sample, the resource file, and then how we are going to run it. So those things we can see tomorrow. Okay.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Sounds
Thanks,
good.
Amos. Yeah. Good
Thank
night.
you.
Bye.